Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Meet Tina. How's everyone's doing? Today, always love to have her here. Laurie Johnson, my one of my best teachers around. I mean, she taught me how to do, a lot of classes about tarot reading, which she's going to start her Zoom classes for everyone. Please look her up. She's amazing, amazing tarot teacher. I can guarantee that for sure. I mean, in the quick time, you learn so much. Now, not only she's a tarot teacher, she's also, does an excellent, very accurate tarot reading, for over 40 years, I would say that. It's been a long time. And I remember I saw her like in the late 80s or early 90s at the store back in Los Angeles. Then she's an author of the book, Into Aquarian Age, which you guys should get it. It's only like four something 99. I'm gonna put the link under in description. But today we're gonna be talking about, this is a very actually, I think it's a very important topic right now because I see a lot of people are going through this right now, especially within COVID and what's going on in the world. What's going to happen? I mean, what happens when people die,
Yeah.
And Laurie, take it from me.
Okay.
Tell us what happened, because this is going to be a fascinating topic, guys. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people are letting go right now because we are in this huge transition. And it's like you get to a certain age, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with age predominantly, it does. But if you've had a lot of difficulty or a lot of health issues or just one problem after another in your life and you're 35, you can go, I'm so tired of this. But it's like having somebody who's 80 years old have to then move to another country, learn another language, learn another culture, be able to function with that without any of the things that they've already existed before, without their medical team, without their friends. And there are many people that will choose like, this is too hard. I'm just not going to go. I'm just going to die. So there's a lot of letting go because this year is kind of like not a final, but I mean, it's a big push to let go that Piscean age teaching, that Piscean age karma. Women are facing it in one direction, men are facing it in another, but this is a big year for personal karma, but that big karma to let go. So a lot of people are like, if I have to let all that stuff go, I'm just going to leave. I don't want to learn anything new. It's too much. It's exhausting because we're in exhausting times anyway. And if you're older or you're ill or there has been just a preponderance of crap hitting the fan for you, then it is very much, I want to get out of here. So there is a lot of death. There are a lot of people that are just letting go. And it's going to be like that for several years. We've got major change that's starting next year, which is more positive because we will see the positiveness of it. Now we're just seeing negativity of any change that's put forward, but we will see how that results, the positive results starting next year. And that goes for 20 years. So we've got this journey. We're going to be letting people go, or people are going to volunteer to go over the next 20 years. And it hasn't just started this year. It started with COVID, but it's continuing this year a lot. It's very, very strong this year. But I wanted to say how I know what I know, because just because I'm psychic, that doesn't mean you know anything. One, I'm Scorpio, which means that in all my life, I've always dealt with a life-death situation here. I've helped a lot of people die. I've been with them when they've passed. That was been one of my purposes, to be able to do that. But also, the more that I read and the more that people wanted to contact people on the other side. When I contact people on the other side, it isn't just like they're over there and they're talking to me. It's like with what I do, it's called clairsentience, which is that I feel what they're feeling. So I can feel what their journey has been, what level of the journey that they're on. And in reading other things and doing research for what other people have talked about, this is what happens after death. And I read it and I go, that feels right. That doesn't feel right. But everybody's got kind of an opinion about that. People who are writing about it, what I mean. And yet what it comes down to is my experiences in dealing with people on the other side and helping people die that have given me this, plus my understanding of life, death, and rebirth and past lives and all that stuff. It all comes together and it gives me this, I guess it's a system, but it's not, it's just what I have experienced. I haven't had a near-death experience, but I know people who have, so we've talked a lot about it. There's a lot of fear of death right now, too. There's a lot of fear that's going everywhere. It's like crazy because we're in this big transition. People don't know what's going on, but specifically fear of death, which will affect everything in your life. Piscean age, 2000 years, when we got organized religion at the beginning of that, one of the ways that they could control was through fear of death, which is, all right, you don't do what I say. I'm the priest, I'm the imam, I'm the rabbi, whatever. You don't do what I say, then when you die, God is going to punish you for everything you didn't do right. And we love the sin. that you didn't do something right, you didn't miss it, you're not looking like I'm learning something, you're like, you sinned against God, and therefore you need to be punished. And we've had that in the psyche for 2,000 years. So it's really hard to just say, okay, I'm not afraid of death. Death is going to come. It's going to be fine. And because of that perpetuating fear of death and the control that they needed to have over 2,000 years, they also made it that you only have one life and that's it. Then you're going to go to God and you're either going to get punished, you're going to go to purgatory, you're going to go to hell. Maybe you'll sit by Jesus's side, but basically you're going to get punished. I mean, that's kind of like the bottom line. There's no way to get through life without you sinning. Therefore, you're going to get punished somewhere down the line. Because there's a sect of Christianity that a friend of mine was a member with, and I went to sing in the choir. And automatically, I love this, automatically in the program that they gave you, there is a statement that everybody reads together that talks about what I sinned this week. How I sinned, forgive me. And I'm going, you know, guys, I didn't really sin this week. So what am I supposed to do in reading this? Because I haven't done anything wrong. I've been coherent. I've been conscious. I've been good to people. I've done what I should. And I'm sitting here because there was an automatic assumption that you did something wrong. And that's a big fear that's then comes down to fear of death, because that's, again, punishment when you die. But also we have leftover mentality from the Great Depression. Whether that was taught in your family because your parents survived it, or they were children, or your grandparents lived through it, or whatever, that's still part of the mentality, because we have people alive now who in one way experienced it by their parents teaching them, or they were kids when this happened. And during that time, because it was such a surprise, we got into this survive at all costs mentality. You survive, you survive, you survive. And it got to be, okay, fear of death, can't die. We got to survive at all costs. And then we have the medical community, which does intervention for people who are at near death to keep them alive, mainly older people, but anybody who's like really sick. And within the medical community, it's more like quantity of life, not quality of life. It's like, I can keep you alive. You won't feel really good. And, you know, but you'll be walking around and you'll be able to be around all the people that you love. You'll be angry and pissed off and hurt all the time, but that's okay because we can keep you alive. So we've got those things that are making us look at death as something that's to be feared. And yet I can tell you 100% that there is nothing to fear about death. What we have forgotten is that it is a natural cycle. Whether we believe it or not, because what we've been taught within organized religion, death, life, rebirth, death, life, rebirth. This is how it goes. There's always rebirth. There's always life. And if you want to look at it on the other side, is more like home, and our conscious selves in a physical body is more like, this is the dream. Because we always go back home, we always wake up, and then we go back and experience something else and learn something else. So when you get to the other side, there's a commonality, certain commonalities, which is you get the white light, you know, it's really bright, it's really white light, and you go through a tunnel. And on the other side of the tunnel are these people who loved you, who have passed, who you love, and they are greeting you. People and animals, be aware the animals will be there too. But that is all truth. That is all something, because it's not like we hit with a white light. It's just you're going to a higher vibe, and the color of that vibe is like brilliant freaking white. That vibe is so high, because the highest, when you talk about the tree of life, the highest vibe, the highest sphere on the tree is Kether, which is pure white. So this is where you're headed. And it is pure love. It is pure peace. It is pure, 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 pure energy. But the first thing that you will encounter when you're on the other side is people welcoming you, who have loved you, who you have loved, including, again, the animals that are giving you that feeling, because you know, it's a shock to the system, especially if you don't, it's not look forward to it, but appreciate that there's a cycle as opposed to an ending. So they're there to start that feeling of peace and to give you that, I missed you, I missed you, I missed you, I'm so glad you're here, and to make it an easier transition. Once that is done, you might have a couple of people that are like really, really close to you that walk you through the next part of the transition, but then you kind of walk into, and I'm using walk, there's no like physical space, there's no time, it's just makes it easier to understand. But then you go into the angelic space. There is angelic energy that when we start a life helps us decide what we're going to do. The older that you are as a spirit, as a soul, the less you need intervention. The younger you are, it's kind of like Teachers will teach you in kindergarten what you need to know because you have no idea what to ask for. You don't know that there's math. You don't know any of this stuff. So there are guides to help you on the other side, to set you up in life, but also to guide you when you're past, that will guide you through that. And the more they need to guide is dependent on the age of your soul. And then the people that love you can walk you through with that and hold your hand with that, depending on if you need them to or not. But everybody will get to that point where the angelic energy is like surrounding you in this peace, in this unconditional love, so that you can assimilate to being on the other side. They're not saying, okay, here you go, let me hit you with peace and love. They just surround you with that so that you can do your own work, because there is a judgment day within the way that, especially Christians, but anybody who has a judgment day within their theology, it's usually a punishment factor. God is going to judge you, and you say judgment day, and it usually has a connotation as in a threat. You did something wrong. But the point is, you chose what you wanted to learn before you came in, with help, granted, but you chose what you wanted to learn when you came in. You chose what you wanted to pay back, and if you did it. Now, the judgment day then becomes you looking back on your life and is, what did I do? It's like, I've got this report of what I wanted to accomplish. All right, now let me look at that and see, what did I do? What did I get done? What did I learn? What did I pay back? What did I learn that now is going to be in the next lifetime? That's the introduction to what's coming up next. You go through that list, and this is your judgment day, where you decide what you did, but you've got that angelic energy around you. And if you're a young soul and you really can't do it very well, then they guide you through it the way they guided you through what you needed to study when you were alive. Now, a lot of people, when I'm contacting people on the other side for them, because they didn't get contact, there are levels of vibration. We are at a physical level, which is very dense. When you go to the other side, you're still kind of connected. It's like you haven't gone into true spirit. You are, in true spirit, but you still can contact those on the other side. So sometimes souls that pass, before they hit their own judgment day, because that kind of lifts your vibe quite a bit, before they hit that, then they'll hang around the people that they loved in order to be able to give them messages, or just be able to see how they're doing. Kind of like throw some help in, or just like tap them on the shoulder and stuff like that. But they can't, it's difficult for energies on the other side, for souls on the other side, in many cases, to maintain that connection to the physical world, because it's like you're flying and then you've got weights that are holding you down. Okay. So when you finish with Judgment Day, assuming that you've done all the work that you needed to do in contacting everybody, then there is that journey that you can choose many, many things on the other side of what you want to do. You can go traveling. You can just say, I want to go to the universe. I haven't been to the Pleiades yet, so let me go there. Or look, Jupiter is pretty this time of year. Something like that you can do. But you can also then look out for the people that you left behind in a very different way. When you're on a higher vibe and you can't like go and tap them on the shoulder, or like make candles fly or whatever, then you go to the energy where you watch for them, and you can assist what's going on for them. As in, if you don't know how to do it, if you don't know how to give them information, like, in their dreams, give them a little download of information, then it's like, let's grab a passing angel and say, can you help my daughter? Can you help this person that I love? And so this is when they look out for you, but they're not in contact with you. When my father passed, he had been having health issues for about 20 years. He'd had a heart attack about 10 years after. He'd had heart surgery, and then 10 years later, he had a heart attack, and that like laid him out flat, but he lasted another 10 years before he passed. So when he died, he's like, I am so out of here. And I did not feel him at all. But 6 months after he died, he called me on my cousin's cell phone. My cousin lived in North Carolina. I was in Los Angeles, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, which was still very early for her, my phone rang, and it was from her, and there was no message. And I called her right away thinking there was an emergency, and she did not call me. And yet the call still showed on my phone. It didn't show on hers, it showed on mine. So that was my father using electronics, because electronics are very easy for center energies on the other side to use. And basically wanted to say, I'm fine, I'm good, not coming back, I gotta go, just wanted you to know. And since then, he's gone to higher levels, and he's come back to me as one of my guides that I work with. He helps me when I'm doing readings by his choice. I invite him. I never just expect him to be there, but he does that now because he's reached that higher level. So that's a choice that he made of being able to help me. And yet there is no he doesn't have to, you know? So when people want contact from those that have passed, there are a couple of things going on. Mostly electronics is going to help you a lot more, because that's just basically pure energy that we understand in one way or another.
Mm.
But the other thing is that, and I've had people come and say, okay, this person has been dead for 6 months, for a year, and I haven't had any contact. I'm going, yeah, you really have. But how you expect to hear it, how you expect to come to you is not how it's coming. So you're thinking of contact in a box, and this energy is like yelling at you, but you're expecting to hear it like with your physical ears, or you're expecting to have really clear dreams. So that expectation stops you from being able to accept that this is happening in a way you might not exactly understand. So one of the things I tell people is kind of like, just let it flow. Because if somebody's trying to contact you, ask for one thing before you go to sleep, for the guides, angels, and ancestors that take care of you to then help you learn how to hear it or be aware of it outside of your own box. And you will, but it's most of the time, if there's contact from the other side and you don't get it, it's because you expect it to be something, and that expectation stops the flow of how it's actually coming to you. Yeah, I don't mean to like keep talking. Is there something you wanted to throw in here?
Yeah, sure. You talk about a lot of people have fear, which is true, because, I think one of the reasons that people is afraid is probably more like a physical pain, not be able to, you have no more oxygen that you can breathe. You can't breathe anymore. So especially with what just been going on lately with COVID pandemic, that has to do with lung function and breathing. So not having to go through that final stage of one's life, feeling this pain or struggle of breathing or losing life. I think that's what most people are afraid of.
Well, that's what they're afraid of in a conscious way.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, on an unconscious level, we all know that there is a journey of life, death, and rebirth, but we've also been taught to not believe that anymore. So you get that conditioning, the same conditioning that put women in a second-class position to men with a Piscean age is the same conditioning that gives us that fear that is very deep inside that we may not consciously be aware of, but is pervasive for us. I'm sorry, I had a kitty here and she was stuck on the armchair. She could, her nails were stuck here.
She wanted chimed in.
Yeah, she did. She's really sweet. I wish I could show you to you, but she doesn't like to be held and picked up. But that gets in the way. And I understand what you're saying, because this is the physical reality of it. And yes, people are afraid of being in pain or that transition. But if they knew the transition, if they consciously were actually believing that that transition was just more normal, then yeah, it would be fear of pain, fear of, I don't know, we need fear of pain because we got like excellent drugs in the world, but it's the fear of change. But it's, again, if you do not think that that is a threat, you're not going to be afraid of it.
Not knowing where you will go after this or what will happen, and all the security that you felt in the physical realm going to disappear.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes. But again, if because this is before organized religion, it was accepted, and in many cultures it still is, that you do life, death, rebirth. There's always rebirth.
Laurie, some ancient culture, from what I understand, do celebrate death, actually, right? Like American Indians and in the ancient Egyptian time even do that. They celebrate death.
Yeah. It's a journey. That's all. It's just the next journey, but we have been taught to be so afraid of it because it's been a control mechanism. And that's a big thing going on here about that fear. It's very, very big. Fear is very, very big right now. And you add the fear of death onto that, which again, people are not consciously necessarily aware of, because you don't sit there and go, yes, I'm afraid of death. But if you're afraid of death and you think this is your only lifetime that you can do anything, how can that not affect what you do on a daily basis? It's like, if I don't get this right at work, it's like, I'm going to sin and I'm going to be punished for this when I die. And you don't consciously think that, but it's underneath everything. We're expected to do everything right the first time. And we never get it the first time. It's a learning process. And anyway, so the fear of death is there and it's very, very strong. But when we get to the other side, I mean, legitimately, there are just so many choices that we have. Once we finish with the judgment day, once we finish with whatever we want to do with the people that we've left behind, we can then go study with Einstein, or you can again go traveling the universe, or do whatever it is that you really, really want to do before you set up. And there's a thing here, and that you're going to come back. Most everybody on the planet right now is going to come back. And I get a lot of people saying, I am not coming back. And I'm going, well, if you say that, 100% you are. Because
How come?
ego statement.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just saying that it's not a threat, because people don't want to come back and do this shit again. If they had a hard time, if they had difficulty, or they're having a hard time in the moment, it's like, I ain't coming back to this stuff. No, you're not coming back to that stuff. What happens if everything that you wanted to happen in this lifetime is then available to you the next lifetime? Wouldn't you want to experience that? Wouldn't you want to go somewhere where everything works out for you, where you have the love of your life and you're living with unicorns and daisies? I mean, people are thinking that this lifetime is going to repeat, and that's not how it goes. You don't repeat a lifetime. If you're really stuck, I mean, my mother is really, really stuck. She's no longer with us, but she was really stuck. I knew her 2000 years ago. Very, very selfish person. I remember her in Rome, and she sold me to the Vestal Virgins because it looked good for her. Okay. I mean, knowing that I could get sacrificed, but that was okay. It looked good for her. And in this lifetime, she hadn't changed at all in doing the sacrifice of everybody else for her. She'd throw anybody else under the bus, and she wouldn't do it like on a conscious level, but she would do it in a way that was about what she needed, and everybody else didn't really count. So we're talking 2000 years that she'd been in multiple lifetimes. I wasn't in every one of them with her, but she'd been in multiple lifetimes that she hadn't learned a damn thing.
Wow. Is she coming back?
She's coming back. But the deal is also, okay, thing about this planet, this is a very desired planet to be on, to reincarnate on. It's a very sensate planet. Not only do we feel things very intensely, where we don't feel it necessarily in the same way elsewhere, but also it's a beautiful planet. I mean, you know, the smells, the aroma, the senses we're very sensate. It's a very rich planet, and people want to reincarnate here because, just in case you need to know, the Earth is the heart chakra of the solar system. So this is a very loving place to be. And so people want to reincarnate here all the time. But when you reincarnate here, if you don't do, especially now for where we are, for the lessons that we've had to face, the really intense lessons, if you've been given one opportunity after another to get them, like on a silver platter, here's a lesson, here's a lesson, here's a lesson, which we've been getting for about 200 years. And there are still people that are so stuck that they don't want it. It's like, it can't be my way. I don't want it. Okay, great for them. That's fine. But what happens is you leave the world this lifetime, when you had an opportunity to do so much karmic work, when you had an opportunity to leap and grow forward, and you chose not to for your own ego or for your own selfishness, which means you basically made everybody else pay for the fact that you weren't happy, then you're not allowed to reincarnate here if you have a low vibration when you leave. So
now, Laurie, I have a question. This is what I heard. This is like a long time ago. I heard that a lot of there's going to be a lot of death during this time, during ascension time, because these souls wants to come back and reincarnate here down the years, because the Earth is going to be like, you know, not where we're at right now, or maybe in the fifth dimension, or a different realm, or a different energy, but will be beautiful.
Yeah.
Is that why a lot of souls are?
No, a lot of people are, okay, we have way too many people on the planet, for one thing. Okay. And I wasn't going to mention this, but COVID technically was supposed to take out a lot more whenever we've got a pandemic. Anytime we've had a pandemic in the past, one of its primary functions is to cull the herd, is to get rid of a lot of people. That sounds really cold, and I apologize for people who have lost somebody within the pandemic. And I know that you experienced it and were close to death there too. So it sounds like it's really cold and hard, but just looking from a pandemic purpose, it always is to cull the herd. We have too many people on the planet right now. And yes, there are a lot of souls, but they better be on a higher level or they're not allowed to come back. And they're the ones that are moving forward in this Aquarian age, which is where we get the kids that are coming in and they're like all together and they already know what they're doing. But there are souls that are waiting, but the list of who's allowed now is much smaller. So we get these higher level, higher vibe souls that are wanting to come back, not just for them, because that's the thing. What you're talking about here is as if these souls are coming back because it's like, I deserve to have a life in Eden. when it's more that they're coming back because they can participate in making that even happen. Because of a higher vibe, they bring that light with them. And then they teach others who are still in process of learning. They help the planet heal. They help animals heal. They help other people heal. So yeah, but you won't be allowed back just to say, hey, I want to live here because it's pretty. You come back with a purpose. You have to come back with, yes, you deserve to live here, but also you are going to do something that makes it worthwhile. And there are a lot of people who just are not going to be allowed back. My mother's not going to be allowed back. I knew that before she died, that I wasn't going to have to reincarnate with her until she got the memo. She wasn't getting the memo, but I had tried and tried and tried and tried. So she can't come back into my life, reincarnate with me until she's on a higher level so that she can make up to me what she did, but also understand things from a different perspective. And it's not about I'm the victim here. I'm not. I chose this. Go ahead.
So, you know, since there are so many souls on this earth and they won't allow to come back, where did they come from, Laurie? And where would they go if they're not allowed? I mean,
well, okay. There's the, you know, when we talk about the Big Bang in the universe with the planets, there's also the Big Bang of souls. That all souls came from God, using that word for simplicity's sake, from creator. All souls came from creator. And then we're encapsulated in self-awareness so that we don't remember where we came from, because part of the lesson is find out where we came from, find out that we all came from God, know that, understand that, and then we get into higher vibe and learn more and learn more and learn more. And then when we get to be as perfect as we can be as a human being, then we go back to God and we take our knowledge with them, because God, creator, nothing is in a vacuum, everything is learning. So this is the path of how the creator learns. But with that, we've got all these billions of planets that do not need to sustain life the way that Earth does, but where there is life. And so the people that are waiting to reincarnate here, most of them have already reincarnated on the Pleiades or, you know, Arcturus or whatever, somewhere where there's a higher vibe going on. But there are other places where the energy is denser and it's lower, and people who were given the opportunity to learn something and then they chose not to because of ego, and they keep coming back and choosing ego, then what they're going to be going to is a place where the lessons are harder. So it's like, you know, if you didn't get it when it's given to you as a gift, then you're going to get it because you have no choice. So it's not like we only have people that are reincarnating on the earth and that's it. We have people that are reincarnating all throughout the solar system, all throughout the universe. And, or I would say souls, because they don't have to be people, but souls that are doing it. So this is desirable, but people don't just come here and stay here, because there are also really desirable planets elsewhere. So it's just a matter of all the souls, all the universe. We're just one of those stops, and it's a very pleasant stop to be here. The stuff that we learn here is just tremendous.
wow. You know, it's interesting because, you know, you brought up a couple subjects that you could talk, and, you know, I picked what happened when we died, you know, and for the reason, because I have noticed through people I know personally have, you know, lost many loved ones in just a very short time, you know, and it's like, before you asked me, hey, you know, Tina, what would you like me to talk about? I was like, whoa, this is crazy, because this past month, Laurie, I've been hearing a lot of death of clients, family members, and everywhere.
Yeah.
So why is it that there's, I mean, I know you're talking about pandemic and you know, the souls, too many people on this earth. Is that because it's on their contract that this is it, this is the how long their life is going to be here?
In many
That's
cases,
why they're
yes.
leaving.
But, well, there are a lot of people who are here longer than their time. And I would say that takes up a lot of people who are, well, everybody who is living on drugs that keeps them alive. And I'm not saying, you know, stop the drugs and die, but we are relearning the natural rhythm of life, death, and rebirth without that kind of intervention. But it is that there are a lot of people here who should have already passed according to their rhythm of life, death, and rebirth. Not according to my, you know, it's like, you need to go. Because there are a lot of people that I would say just need to reincarnate right now and get off the planet because they're just so freaking negative. But that's me being bitchy, so get away from that. But it is that we do have a lot of people. They were allowed to come in. A lot of the young souls were allowed to come in. And the earth kind of said, all right, that might have been a mistake, because they didn't grow. And so they're stuck. So we've got a lot of people who are here that don't need to be here because they're in medical intervention land. But then we got a lot of the young souls who are really, 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 really stuck in their self-righteousness and what they deserve, that also should not be here, because they've already decided that they're not going to grow, they're not going to learn. So they're like this big stuck energy from letting everything else flow. And that was not what they intended when they came into this lifetime. That was not what they intended, but it got to be too hard. And so anybody who is really stuck because life got to be too hard, and I'm not talking about people who are doing the best they can, but they're just really beaten down. I'm talking about people who are standing in, it is about me, it is about what I want, I don't care what you want. And the energy that we're in right now is so based on fear, but also so based on self-righteousness, that it isn't about, you can have a different opinion and we can disagree. It's like, you have a different opinion, you need to die. So there's just like this intensity going on here, and it's coming to a head. And a lot of people are like, I don't want to deal with that. Whether they're sick, whether they're old or not, it's like, I just don't want to deal with that, because it wasn't what it was intended. Without these young souls, this transition would be so much easier. But these young souls, and I'm not saying they shouldn't have been born, because that was just an experiment to see how it was going to go, but there are just a lot of reasons why. There are a lot of people that are going to leave right now. But basically, it still comes down to the basics of that they don't fit anymore. And they're not going to fit by their own choice. And they need to go for themselves, but also for the growth of the planet, for the growth of human beings. If they can't get into humanity, they don't need to be here. And they're going to find that out more and more and more over the next years.
Wow. So you said more and more in the next years, it's going to be more death than where we're at right now.
More what it would be considered more than normal, and not like pandemic death. But yeah, we start a journey next year that is a 20-year journey. This is Pluto going into Aquarius, and it's a really uplifting thing. There's a lot of change that we are going to see, because we're seeing a lot of change, which is like all negative. We said the negative side of it. So for the next 20 years, starting next year, it will be of us seeing the positive outcome of change that's going on.
Starting next year.
Yeah, but it also means that it's just foreign for a lot of people who can't think in that way. Foreign for, there are older people now who just can't get out of that Piscean age mindset, where the men are important, the women aren't, and women believe this too. And that's just like the basics, but all the things that were taught to us, and the overlord stuff and the religious stuff that gets in the way of being able to flow with things. And so you don't feel with the flow. It's kind of like, I'm 80 years old and I'm listening to Tommy Dorsey, and then I come in and I got to listen to rap, and that's what I got to listen to for the rest of my life. Oh, forget it, I'm going to go. Who wants to do that? There's no trumpet here. There's no sound that's like, there's no melody. It's just people yelling at me. Okay, I'm being an old man, but it's that energy going on here. If you're stuck and you don't like it and you're not comfortable in your own skin, you don't want to stay. And it'll be easier for people to let go. And it's not the earth's kicking them off. It's just, if you can't be in that vibe, you don't feel like you belong anywhere. And you can only do that so long before, if you still fight it, disease will come into your body, or you just decide, I'm out of here for whatever reason. And that doesn't mean suicide. It means you can, on an inner level, say, I'm out of here, and all of a sudden get cancer that's 4th stage when it didn't show up 6 months ago. There are lots of different ways on how this transitions.
Well, what about in my case, in my case, I almost died, but I didn't die.
Yeah.
What is that supposed to mean? To be,
well, I mean,
what is supposed to
it was more that you needed the experience. Okay, didn't really want it, but the experience, if all this stuff was going to happen, and it's like, all right, I'm coming into this lifetime, all right, there's going to be a pandemic. It's like, what can I get out of it? It changed your life though, didn't it?
Oh yeah.
It changed how you saw everything. That was the point for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't that you were supposed to die, but sometimes you have to get close to that in order to see things from a different perspective. And you get a different perspective, that's for sure.
Absolutely, because I probably wouldn't be doing this.
Well, I got to say, though, that your energy is much lighter and brighter.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I even thought to myself, if I wasn't sick, I probably would be too busy working and traveling, doing my things, and I wouldn't have time to be learning how to do all this stuff. Or even thought about, coming close to my heart, to my soul, and see what is it that Tina loves to do. So at the latter part of my life right now, I just want to do things that resonate to my heart, things that I enjoy, what I do, and this is one of them,
But that's
spirituality.
Aquarian age thinking, though. It is Aquarian age thinking that you're following what you need to do. You're not following the box that society put you in.
No, because before COVID, I would not post all my YouTube on my public Facebook or my, public social media. Now it's like, didn't matter. The latter
Yeah.
part of my life, I just wanted to enjoy every day that I do, connecting with, like-minded people and really sharing and learning the knowledge, bridging all the teacher speakers, to share all their wisdom like yourself and just have fun with all this. We kind
Yeah.
of help bridge each other to grow.
Yeah.
So I thought about that. Yeah, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it.
So that means that when you do pass, that your choices for what you're going to go through, that you've already dealt with the major part of the karma that you decided to deal with in this lifetime. So when you pass and when you reach all those people that love you, it's like, you're not going to have any hard time with transition. It's like, oh, I get to see all these people. Isn't that great? Where are the angels? Let's move forward.
Yeah.
This is where I think you're going to be, because it's like, you're not going, when you do die, when that time comes, honestly, I feel it's going to be a very easy transition for you. And it's just going to be, I'm here and I'm not. Something that I will say, I wanted to go back on that. I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you want? Okay. I had an uncle who was a minister in Congregational Church, I think it was, in the South, and he was very fire and brimstone stuff. And he had an experience where he spoke with God, and it completely changed what he believed in and how he was a minister. So he went from scaring the crap out of people to unconditional love.
Wow.
And when he got older and he retired and he was sick, this was really interesting. There was a family reunion. And at that point, not all the other cousins had come in. It was just me as there. And he's the one I stayed away from more than anything else, because I just did not want fire and brimstone thrown at me when I'm on vacation with my parents. So this time he and I sat down and we talked for about 4 hours nonstop about our experiences with God. Because I have had, I don't necessarily call it God, but I have had those conversations, that connection. And we just decided, we just talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. It was a talk of the family. It's like, ooh, they're talking. What the hell is that about? So when he died, his mother was with, his wife was with him and one of his daughters. And he told them to tell me that we were right.
Wow.
Because what we understood on the other side was that angelic energy greeting us, was that white light. And he was so advanced at that time that he was physically in his body and also seeing that tunnel and also seeing the people on the other side that were waiting and experiencing the angels that were moving him through the tunnel.
Wow. This is beautiful that you're sharing this with the audience, Laurie, because this will help lift the fear for a lot of people that, going through this transition of death is not something that they have to be scared at all. What your uncle shared, just really absolutely beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. And actually my cousin called my aunt called my mother and my mother called me. They didn't give me the information directly, but my mother said, what was that about? What does that mean? And I said, this is what happens when we pass. And she, even though claiming to be a really good and rabid Christian, she was terrified of death. And she said, will you help me when that time comes? And I go, yeah, that's kind of like in the package. And I did, even though I wasn't with her at that time. When she passed, I could not be with her.
Wow, it's crazy how so many people are afraid of death. Now, what about, when each person passed on, of course, they're going back home. What about the loved ones here who are still very much in sadness and mourning for those who passed away? What advice or word that you would like to kind of share with these people who are still alive and
but
cannot
this is
let go? Yeah.
They can't let go, but this is because of fear. And it all comes down to it. It doesn't seem like it's that simple, but it is. If you fear death and somebody that you love dies, then it becomes about your fear of death. And then about I'm alone. And I've known, this is really weird. I've known people within these last 2 months who have known that a relative of theirs is dying because they've been with them every day in the hospital and they know they're on their way out and they've been given a time frame that is very accurate. And then they don't handle it when that person dies. And I'm going, you have all this time where you know that person is dying. Excuse me, where you know that person is dying and you're not adjusting to it. It's your lesson. when somebody passes, sorry, give me a second here. There's stuff in the air.
That looks
We need-
delicious.
Oh,
That looks
yes.
delicious, whatever you're drinking. Yeah.
It's orange mandarin spice tea.
Ooh.
I know, I love the celestial seasonings. Anyway, when we are left in deep grief, and I know this, I'm sorry, I know this too, that I have a client whose wife died. They've been married for like 35 years, and she was going in for a routine hip surgery, and she died on the operating table because the doctor made a mistake. He cut a vein without realizing it, and she bled to death while she was in recovery.
Oh my God.
And they were married for a long time, but they hadn't loved each other for a long time. He was having a relationship with somebody else. She was in her own heyday, and they stayed together just because they'd always been together. That wasn't about love. And how he remembered her, how he needed to, because he was guilty, because he knew somebody else, how he needed to remember her was as if she was a saint.
Wow.
It's kind of like, that's how people deal with things, because what they need to deal with. So the grief, and I'm not saying, it's selfish for you to have grief, but it is that you are in grief, and it is your own personal journey for how to learn something. It's not about the other person anymore, because the other person is free, and the other person wanting to come back and make sure you're okay, basically because they know you're going to be sitting in your own grief, which is your own process. So unfortunately, it is a journey that teaches us something about ourselves, teaches us something about life, the universe, and everything, and about death, rebirth, and all that stuff. But it is always there to show us something that except for really, I mean, they're not, yeah, granted, when we're in a COVID situation, there are a lot of people that are dying, but on the whole, we haven't been in a situation where you just have everybody in your life die, unless that's part of the karma of the family. So you don't deal with it a lot. So it's more of an exception when people around you die. Your parents are going to die, siblings if they're older than you, and friends and stuff like that when you get to be a certain age. But it's just that it shows you something that you can't learn in any other way, which is you have to deal with your own grief. But that also means you're looking at yourself and how you're feeling about them, not how they're feeling about you. This is about how you are feeling about death, how you're feeling about them, how you're feeling about your own mortality, and who you are and how important you are and unimportant you are. That all comes up because it's it's like there's life and death and rebirth. But the way we're thinking of it is life and death, so that there's no rebirth situation. And it makes us deal with not just mortality, but then we reassess everything with us. And if we live in a world where we have to condemn ourselves for doing anything slightly wrong, then when this comes up, part of the grief is that, oh man, I just screwed up my entire life. And we might not consciously think it that way, but that's the wave of energy that comes in, that we compare ourselves, that if this was happening to us, what would we be doing? It's very complex. It isn't like, okay, I just missed that person. Yeah, that's there. But then if that person was there holding your hand for your entire life, there was another couple that I knew, and the wife died, and the people were like in their late 60s. And he went to her graveside every single day.
Wow.
Because she took care of him so much. He didn't know what to do. He
Wow.
did not know what to do with himself. And his daughter had to come in and start taking care of him because he couldn't function.
That's so sad. That's so sad.
It is sad, but that's his journey.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't get it in this lifetime, he'll get it in another lifetime. Okay.
Right,
So it's
right.
not like he failed. It's just sometimes you get to a point and you just can't take on anymore. You can't learn anymore.
Wow. This is quite interesting, to see so much fear that we all have, either going through death themselves, or lose their loved ones, and have a
Yeah.
lot of fear of losing the loved ones, hanging on to the loved ones, not wanting the loved ones to go, things like
Well,
that.
you're going to see him again, though. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody that you love, you'll see again. And then it is your choice whether you want to reincarnate with them again. Because then there's the thing, when you get to the other side, after you've done your personal judgment day, and after you've done, I'm going to travel the universe, or I'm going to study with Einstein, or I'm going to, look out after everybody and then be a guide for people, then you have a choice a choice to reincarnate, meaning that most people on the planet right now, I would say like 95% of them are going to reincarnate, whether they want to or not. But again, it's like, it's not going into the same thing that we just experienced. But then you get to choose if you want to reincarnate with these people, because you will always know a lot of people in your life that you've known before. Every intimate relationship that you've had, you've had with somebody before. Now, the difference is as we're moving forward out of this lifetime, because this lifetime is you can do so much karmic work that you can clear the slate and be on an arc where you get to have everybody brand new, but you also choose. You can choose to come in and say, I want to have this person, I want to be married to this person. Then when I get older, when she dies, I want to be married to this person. I mean, you can choose how that's going to play out. It might not go 100%, but we're talking the difference between fate and free will is that the fate is what you decide, your karmic stuff. And then the free will is how you deal with it when it unfolds for you when you're alive. But you can come back and choose, I want all these people in my life and we're going to be in a commune and we're going to live in Northern California and have a wonderful time. Okay, your choice, go ahead.
Perfect. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Well, Laurie, thank you so much. This is like, I'm glad that you talk about this because for those, especially for those who are listening, who just lost a loved one or who is very afraid of the death transition, know that there's nothing to be fearful. Laurie, can you tell the audience, because this is going to be on podcast too, if they're interested in when you're going to start the class, the tarot class, when is going to be a date?
Okay, the tarot class starts on Thursday, September 8th. And it is, I'm going to start it at 6 o'clock my time. I'm on Central Time, and it's going to be on Zoom. And if you are interested, then there is a write-up on my website. And it's under classes, but it's also, there's, the last thing that I published was on that. And you can get the details on that. But also, if you just want to contact me about it, it is just contact my email address, which is lauriecjohnson@yahoo.com.
And your website name is?
LaurieJohnsonPsychic.com.
Easy, LaurieJohnsonPsychic.com, guys. But I also will post it in the description as well for those who are on YouTube or on videos can see that clearly. But for those who are on podcast, you can contact her. Just go to her website. You can check her out. LaurieJohnsonPsychic.com. And she also, has written books, so you can grab a copy if you like into the Aquarian age, correct?
Yes, it is.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, Laurie, thank you as always. Always, you are amazing and so much wisdom with you. And I want to thank you for being here. We're gonna come back again in the next couple of weeks. We're gonna be talking about another topic, which is gonna be fascinating also. Laurie, thank you so much for being here. Guys, thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing, share, and click like. Really appreciate that. Also follow me on all my social media. I have listed underneath in the description. Until then, the next video, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.